Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today, the memory wall came down. Memory was officially reborn. For decades, the tech world has worshipped at the altar of the processor. We've tracked flops, we've obsessed over Moore's law, and we've treated memory as a silent servant, a commodity bought by the gigabyte and forgotten. But today, on March 17th, that hierarchy has been permanently inverted. Memory wall was not only dented and cracked today, it was demolished. Today's breakthrough performance wasn't a fluke. It was a memory renaissance in the market. Stocks like Micron, Western Digital, Seagate Technology, and SanDisk, they just weren't traded today. They were treated and repriced like the lifeblood or the oxygen of the AI era. Today's action was based on three big stories. So we had the convergence of the NVIDIA GTC Rubin era, the end of the cyclicality of memory, and the physical supply crunch that we see in the market. Today's video, I'm going to highlight all four memory companies today and what their performance looked like. I'm going to talk about a billion-dollar whale that crossed the finish line at today's close. And then we'll look at the technical performance of each stock to see what it could tell us about tomorrow's action. But if you haven't done it already, hit like, hit subscribe to the channel. If you like the content on my channel, if you find value from this content, I want you to smash the subscribe button. I want you to be part of this community and on this channel. Let's get started. Let's look at our first stock, which is Micron. Guys, you can see Micron had an unbelievable day today overall. So Micron's performance, we were at, let me change that. Micron's performance up almost $20 a share, 4.5% growth, closed at just under $4.62 a share. Guys, you know on this stock, on this channel, we've talked about Micron breaking the 400, the 420 level. I even put a poll out earlier this week saying, will Micron pass 450 before the earnings call tomorrow? Guys, we're at 462 a share. Look what's happening in the after hours. Another $7 on top, almost another 1.6% growth, closing in on 470 a share. I think it's fair to say now that Micron is pushing towards that next psychological level of 475. We're going to break that tomorrow. I think there's going to be a massive gap up at morning bell. I'm going to show you why in a moment, based on some major whale activity that you're going to want to see. Guys, we have a chance to push well towards that 500. You know, for me, I've talked about on this channel that I have a price target of Micron of at about 550 at the end of the year. I think we're going to hit that way before the end of the year. And I think it's fair to say right now, based on the demand in the marketplace and based on some other news that we saw today, that Micron has a chance of hitting 650, 700 a share by the end of 2026, possibly higher. But that's my noon price target. I think the stock action we saw today was based on a couple of things. One, the report last night that we saw on Micron's website that they're in high volume production of HBM4 now, that they are ready to meet the need of the NVIDIA Vera Rubin platform. Great to see. They mentioned they've passed all the test requirements. And in fact, their HBM4 product is 20% more efficient than the HBM3E that they have in the marketplace now. This is great news because we saw rumors swirling for weeks that Micron was going to be out of the NVIDIA Rubin platform, that Samsung and SK Hynix were going to take all of the market share there. So we can put those rumors to bed. I think now you can see that Micron is running neck and neck with these companies. Based on what we saw in today's performance and based on the fact that the company is now valued over $500 billion, that's another big piece today. First time in the company history that they have passed the $500 billion market cap number. They're currently valued at $519 billion. Awesome performance for the company. Just think about where Micron was 2 years ago to where it is today. This leadership team has guided this company in an excellent way. They have a differentiated portfolio of products. The market is recognizing that. The investors are recognizing that as well. It's great to see. I can't wait to see the earnings call tomorrow. Micron also announced that they're expanding their fab in Taiwan to help meet the demand. It's also a big bet on their 2030 AI roadmap. So I'm just loving what is seeing this leadership team doing today. Let's jump over and take a look at the technical performance from Micron today. You can see on the screen overall that Micron kind of came out of the gate, faced a little bit of selling pressure from the get-go. Guys, this graph you're looking at, every one of those candles represents a 5-minute time interval for today's action. And you could see early morning there was a dip with Micron based on those red candles right out of the get-go. But the stock performed found a solid base, and it grew back to the 454, 455 level. Found a little additional resistance, but then found support again, and it found the rest of the afternoon in this higher high, higher low pattern, developing from kind of late morning all the way to the close. We had a strong close at the end, closed at 461, as I mentioned. This technical pattern right here is what you would call a bull flag continuation pattern. And I think, as I mentioned, based on what we're seeing in the after hours and based on what I'm going to show you in a minute on some whale activity at the close, we're going to see a gap up tomorrow. I think we're going to push that psychological target of 475 a share from Micron. So let's jump over and take a look at exactly what I'm mentioning around the close piece. You can see on your screen here, this is the NASDAQ closing cross from Micron. So right at the last second of today's action, there was a $1.4 billion trade. Let me move my cursor there. $1.4 billion trade for over 3 million shares from Micron at a trade price of 461.69. Guys, that is a massive closing cross. So this is a huge, massive signal of institutional accumulation. This is not a normal trade. When you see a NASDAQ closing cross at this level, it tells us three things overall. I think the first piece is the whale floor has been set. 461.69 for that trade. That is the new floor. A 1.4 billion print, means that we are seeing a massive index, one of the largest index funds or an institutional whale agreed that 461.69 is the fair market value right now for Micron. So if this stock happens to see any dip tomorrow in the morning session, very well see that this price will be defended. It'll immediately be bought up, and we'll see this 461 be defended, because you don't put $1.4 billion to work to let it slide immediately in the next morning. I think this is also a huge sign of a kind of front running or pre-earnings front run from the institutional investors. A massive closing cross indicates that institutions are positioning for a strong beat tomorrow. A large print like this prior to a major catalyst the next day is a huge sign of conviction buying. These firms aren't day traders, or this action we saw, this weight that was moved, was not done by day traders. This was an institutional huge whale or an index fund that is locking in millions of shares because they expect the guidance for HBM4 and DRAM pricing to be even stronger than the current consensus that's in the market right now. And I think the last thing this tells us is that we can expect, or why I believe we will expect, a huge gap up potential tomorrow for Micron is essentially this closing cross creates a supply vacuum in the marketplace. Most of the available sell side liquidity was just eaten up with this $1.4 billion trade. So for tomorrow's action, unless there's some major negative news overnight, the lack of available shares usually leads to a gap up at the opening bell. The market has to move this stock up higher just to find new sellers overall for Micron. So huge signal, great bullish signals for us, what we expect to see with Micron. I think we'll pass that 475 tomorrow when we gap up. The question is, can we hold it? Will there be profit taking? Will people hold it at least until we see the beat at the end of the day? I think with a strong print, we're going to see that stock jump again. We very well could see some profit taking after that, but I think, in my opinion, it'll be bought back up by both institutions and retail investors based on what we're seeing in the market and how Micron is helping us meet that demand. Let's jump to our second stock, which is Western Digital. So let me jump back over, guys. Western Digital, I would say Western Digital was probably the surprise play today overall. Some may say they stole the spotlight today. Look at that, almost a $28 growth on the day, 10% jump, closed at almost $3.14 a share. This is huge validation that the great memory crunch has spilled over into the storage players. Western Digital reported today, this is part of it, that they are effectively sold out of its entire enterprise SSD capacity for the remainder of this year. They have clearly shifted, both them and Seagate, shifted from a commodity player to a utility player. Hyperscalers are now signing long-term agreements with the storage companies. It legally binds these hyperscalers into 2-year agreements. This is great revenue visibility for these companies. It's exactly what the market loves to see, what investors love to see. Plus, we saw news today from Cantor Fitzgerald that Western Digital is on track to be debt-free by the end of this quarter. That'll clear a path for a massive buyback program for the company. Western Digital is shifting away from being a boring disk drive company, and they're moving into being the vault of the AI world. Let's jump over and take a look at their technical performance today. So guys, here's Western Digital's pattern. You can see very different pattern than what we saw with Micron. Micron had that W recovery. Western spent the day in a series of ascending consolidation zones. The stock broke 300. When it broke from that 300 range early in the session, it never looked back. Look at the far right of the chart. The massive green candles into the close pushed the stock into that 313.82 close. This is a classic short squeeze combined with the fear of missing out for Western Digital, fear of missing out buying. The volume pattern at the end, I want to draw your attention to in the bottom right-hand sign. This is a huge whale signal as well. Volume bars on this chart are very telling. Notice the massive green spike at the very end of the day, reaching almost 78,000 in volume. That kind of volume at a closing bell usually indicates institutional market at the close orders, where the whales aren't just nibbling, they're sweeping the entire order book. Every minor dip throughout the afternoon for Western was met with immediate high volume buying, showing zero hesitation from the bulls today. They were the star of the day. As I mentioned before on my channel, I just felt like these storage players were going to catch up to their peers. I felt like Western Digital was being undervalued, and today was a sign that the market is catching up. They're revaluing Western Digital. I think the stock still has many legs, has room to run in front of it at 313. Great value, putting on some more in the after hours right now. Let's talk about our third stock today, and that would be SanDisk. Let me jump over and take a look at SanDisk. SanDisk, guys, I mean, it's honestly, if you were to tell some of your friends, or if you were telling investors 2 years ago that SanDisk would be the top performing large cap tech stock in Q1 of this year, they probably would have laughed at you. But today, the SanDisk ticker, the SNDK ticker, it is screaming the alpha of the market. It is screaming the top performing stock. Look at today's performance, $16 on the board, 2.3% growth, pushing 720. But look in the after hours, another almost $16. The stock is pushing 735, another 2% growth on the day. Their decoupling from Western Digital has transformed SanDisk from a conglomerate anchor into a pure play AI predator. The real driver today was just the average selling prices that we're seeing with NAND. Those are moving massively. It's a bullish signal for SanDisk. There also was their margins. They reported that their operating margins are at 34% today, nearly triple what it was during their years with Western Digital. Plus, we saw kind of the news at NVIDIA GTC yesterday, where we're shifting generative AI, that it's moving from being text, moving into this high-resolution video. This requires blistering speed at the edge, and SanDisk's their BiCS8 enterprise SSD is now being cited as the gold standard for warm data storage in AI clusters. SanDisk is no longer a commodity flash company. They are being valued as a high-margin AI infrastructure play. So let's jump over and take a look at what their technical performance looked like today. And you're going to see, as I always say, it's a little more volatile with SanDisk. You see a lot of big buying and big selling pattern overall. So this stock faced heavy selling pressure early in the session. Look at those big red candles. Look at the volume bars underneath. It was dipping towards that 715 support zone. This was likely a stop loss hunt, where short sellers tried to break the trend. But notice the aggressive buying that began around mid-afternoon. The stock just didn't recover. It went vertical, slicing through previous resistance that it hit at previous resistance to hit that 719.77 close. I think when you close at a high of the day, like we did with SanDisk, it is a bullish signal. It suggests that buyers were so aggressive, they were willing to find shares of SanDisk and willing to pay any price before the bell rang on the day. So SanDisk, another great day, the alpha of the group for sure. Now let's talk about our last one of today, which was Seagate Technology. Let's jump over and take a look at what Seagate did today. Seagate, Again, strong performance, guys. It's funny. I was just looking at Seagate earlier in the pre-market, and they were flat. I picked up almost $7 here, but they had a strong day. 421 closed at just over 421, $22.50 on the day, over 5.5%, picking up another $6 in the pre-market, another 1.5, pushing towards that 428. Seagate stock is ripping higher than the market realizes today. It's ripping higher because the market is realizing the world of AI needs mass capacity. And the breakthrough moment for Seagate came today when they announced that they're in full production of their Mozak 4 Plus platform. So their 44 terabyte milestone, they are shipping their 44 terabyte hammer, and they're shipping it to 2 leading hyperscale cloud providers. These aren't just bigger drives. These are 47% more efficient per exabyte. So in a world where data center power is the ultimate constraint, Seagate just gave the big 3 cloud providers a way to shrink their footprint by almost 100 square feet while increasing their data density. Let's take a look at their technical performance today overall. So let's jump back. This is Seagate overall today. It was probably the cleanest of the 3 spent overall today. You can see they spent the majority of the day in a rising channel, and they had just kind of characterized by strong buying on every 5-minute dip. The rally today began around midday when they broke out from that 410 resistance pattern. You can see that on the screen right down in the middle where they had some resistance, and then they just had a breakout. The stock surged to 421.18, ending the day at 421.19. They ending in a literally high for the session. So in technical analysis, when you close on a high of the day like that into the bell, it's a massive signal of institutional conviction. It means the whales are sweeping the ask price until the very last second. And if you look at the volume, this is a big thing for Seagate, and it's probably what we're seeing a little bit in the pre-market right now. Look at those volume bars at the finish. While the raw number was lower than Western overall, I mean, remember, Western was at 78. So this is a raw number of volume was lower. The consistency is what matters here. The volume remained elevated throughout the afternoon rally, confirming that this move wasn't a fake out. It was supported by real capital, real support for this stock overall. So strong day for our 4 players. The message is clear. Silicon is the new oil, but memory is the pipeline for that oil. If you're evaluating these players still and these companies still with a 20th century cyclical mindset, you are missing one of the greatest structural shifts in tech history. So I encourage you to stop looking at the oversupply. Stop looking for oversupply. It doesn't exist in the HBM era. Start looking at the thermal efficiency and wafer capacity as the new currencies of value, and position yourself in the Vera Rubin cycle. Because the hardware that was announced this week, it will give profits, and profits will be printed for memory fabs for the next 5 years. Look at your portfolio tonight and ask yourself one simple question. Are you positioned for the commodity past or for the utility future? The memory wall is gone. The era of memory and storage supercycle has arrived. Let's make sure we're all on the right side of that wall. Take care, guys. See you on the next.